Hey everyone, so I'm doing my talk today based on the gospel readings of Zechariah and the prophecy of Saint John the Baptist's coming. So in our faith lives, we find that often we have self-limiting beliefs. We don't believe that God can work through us, that we can accomplish things, that we can achieve things. We don't believe in God's promises. And what we see happening in today's gospel is the fulfillment of the promise. And despite Zechariah not believing, we see God working through their family and St. John the Baptist being born. So what I have found in my own life is that I too have self-limiting beliefs. I too need people around me to encourage me, to tell me, focus on your goal, focus where you want to be, even in the dire circumstances of life. And this is from childhood. This is from my teenage years, going to Kwekwe High School. I needed people around me. I needed my cousins that I grew up with. I needed my friends to encourage me, to say, hey, you're doing great. You might not be where you want to be, but you can focus on where you want to go, and you can focus on what you want to do. And I think that with all of us, we have to allow God to work through our lives. We have to allow the fulfillment of receiving what God has promised us. And we'll find that when people are praying for us, when we have positive people around us, where we have limitations, we can accept those limitations, but we can still enjoy our lives. We can still see the beauty in life. And that's one of the things that I do with my examen prayer. I focus on what am I grateful for today? What am I happy about in my life? What has made life beautiful for me today? And then I focus on my challenges. What is it today that upset me? What is it that frightened me? What is it that caused anxiety in me? And I offer that up to God, and I ask God to help me with it, to help me to understand it, to help me to overcome it, to ask God to work through that. Because we all have self-limiting beliefs, and those self-limiting beliefs come through society. When I first came to Canada, I'll give you a powerful example. When I first came to Canada, I didn't have negative people around me. I didn't have people telling me, you'll never be able to graduate. You'll never be able to go to Rotman. You'll never be able to accomplish the things that you think you can accomplish. I just focused on what I wanted to do. I believed that I would accomplish it, and I worked towards it. Despite the challenges, despite everything that came against me, I was determined, and I prayed every day. I asked God to help me. I didn't have people around me telling me I was the problem. I was never going to achieve it, that I created all the problems in the world, and I created harassment, and I created everything you can conceive under the sun that's negative and evil. So sometimes we have to remove ourselves from those kinds of people, and even if it means being alone, even if it means not having anybody there with us, and focusing on our prayer life, focusing on what we can do, where we are at, we can do that. And you'll find that the result of unbelief, the result of not allowing God to work in your life, can be what happened to Zechariah. He was struck dumb. And when the appointed time came, where God was going to show him that this was going to be, he was able to speak again. So we see that gospel passage, and you might think, oh, it's just a story. Why would somebody write something down or pass on an oral tradition that has lasted over 2,000 years if it was just a story. Yes, there are charlatans. I'm not saying that they're not. There are false prophets. There are people who are just out to use the gospel to make money. They charge people. Oh, they sell things like charms, and they sell prayers, and they say, if you do this prayer at the end of the 9 days, you definitely will get this result. And that's not how faith works. Because faith is putting our belief in God, and if it is God's will, it will come about. It will come about. And God's will for us is always good. It's not evil. It's not destruction of our lives. It's not destruction of our dreams. For those of us who came from disadvantaged backgrounds, who came from racialized backgrounds, where Christianity was used to hurt us, to take us into slavery, to take us into sex trades like other religions in the world, to make us feel that, oh, women are just objects and their property, and the man can do whatever he wants with the woman. That is not what Christianity is about. When you obey somebody, when you obey a law or a command or something, if you're not doing it out of love, and if you're not doing it for the right reasons, it only leads to hurt, and it only leads to frustration. And if it's going to hurt somebody, it shouldn't be obeyed anyway. It's like with sex work. I oppose sex work, and I oppose executives that go around destroying my life, telling everybody, oh, they just wanted to be friends with her. Why would you persist in doing something like that for over 10 years once a woman has said no, unless your intention is to destroy that person's life? Because if I say no, if somebody approaches me in the workplace or in the church or wherever, and I say no, I am not interested in being friends with you. You're a married man, or you have a girlfriend, and I'm here just to do a job, and then I want to move on, and you persist in calling every place I work after that and destroying my life and destroying my reputation. How is that right? Even if you don't believe in God, how is that right? It's not right. So we also have to look at what people are doing to us, and we have to have the right support around us. We have to have the right people with us on that journey. With Zechariah, the family believed, and when the time came to name the child, they said his name is John. It wasn't a traditional name. It wasn't a name that was passed down through generations. But they got rid of a self-limiting belief, and they trusted in the Lord's promise. And so too with us, sometimes we break boundaries. I went and I studied. I went to university. I went and I took my HR courses here in Toronto. I went and I did aromatherapy courses. All of that has helped me because I know what's right. I know what's wrong. I know when they are taking advantage of me. And I've even had the support of the Human Rights Commission in this country and the police to try to put a stop to what has been happening to my career, to my life, to my finances. But if it's the people at the top, in the banking communities and in the healthcare professions, it won't change until there's so many of us saying this is wrong, like the truckers did and like the postal workers did. Then only things change. Because they are self-limiting beliefs, but they are also circumstances that are created. And we have to get rid of those self-limiting beliefs. Because we can accomplish, we can achieve, we can learn, we can study, and God can work through our lives to help us to achieve those things. The things that I did when I went through suffering with anxiety, I listened to music that helped me, my faith music. I listened to Elvis Presley on a daily basis. I sang with him on a daily basis. I went for long walks on a daily basis. I read the scriptures. I listened to the Mass. Even if I couldn't go, I listened to the Mass on YouTube. So there are things we can do that can help us on our journey to get rid of self-limiting beliefs. And if you're listening to people, you're listening to priests or nuns or whoever that are discouraging you and encouraging those self-limiting beliefs, you need to change who you're listening to, because they're not helping you. And any of us can do it. I'm not saying that it's easy, especially if you're a racialized person, or you're coming from a disadvantaged background, or you're coming from, like I did, fleeing political unrest in Zimbabwe. It's very hard and it's very frightening. But it is possible. It is possible. Change can happen. And there are educated women and men all over the world that are standing up to taking away women's rights. We have that case now in France of that woman that was raped by her husband, and he used to call all the men and tell them, "Yo, you can come now, I'm drugging her and you can rape her." I mean, that is evil. That is evil. And advertising her like she's a product, selling her on a website. I mean, how disgusting is it? It's the same thing as what the Global Fund is doing now. It's disgusting. Because you're dealing with a human life. Just like the women at Harrods got raped. They put a picture on the advert of a black woman. But it's happening to women and men of all races, all ages, all colors. And then when it's reported, the police are going to say, "Oh, there's no evidence." In this case, it was filmed. It was filmed, so that's why they convicted them. What about all the thousands of people that there's no evidence? There's no taped phone calls. There's nothing. Or the cameras are erased. It happens. But God can still work through that. And we have to allow God to work in our lives and get rid of those self-limiting beliefs. And get rid of thinking that God does not have power. God has the power. God has the power. We are just human beings. But God has the power. You look at all these floods that are happening in Spain, the cyclones, the tornadoes, the earthquakes. People build empires. They build multi-million-dollar stadiums. They build fantastic buildings. And God can destroy that. And those people that went and they flew into those Twin Towers, the Pentagon, they took United 93 down. God's justice will come down on their families. Because God's justice is not man's justice. The same way that they caught Sirhan who killed Robert Kennedy. You think he's happy with what he did? It's even recorded. He told Frost, "If I go back to my country, I'll be celebrated." It's evil. It's evil. And we have to remember that, and we have to trust in God, especially in these times that we're living in, where people make a joke of what we say to them. I told Justin Trudeau, "You should resign. You should resign." I told him. They make a joke out of it. I told him, I said, like my family says, good luck to you, good luck to him, because he doesn't want to listen, and he's destroying the country. He's destroying our lives. Christians have no rights in this country. Even with a doctor's note, I couldn't get a health accommodation. I can't get my religious days off to go for Good Friday Mass, for Easter, for Christmas when I'm working. And in this country, I'm not talking about England, I'm not talking about Zimbabwe, I'm not talking about South Africa, I'm talking about here in Canada. And the same thing that happened to us here, it happened in Zimbabwe. It happened in South Africa. And it should not be allowed. It should not be tolerated in this country, but it is. It is. And your fear, when you get frightened, that is termed episodic anxiety, episodic disability. So, in other words, we cannot get frightened. We cannot have fear because it's abnormal. Since when? Since when? So read the signs of the times and also get rid of self-limiting beliefs. Because we're visible minorities, because we came from third world countries, because we have long hair or bigger breasts or smaller breasts, people use that against us. They use it against us to hurt us. It's just a self-limiting belief. I used to drive in Zimbabwe. I know how to drive. But because of financial limitations, I haven't gotten my car, I haven't gotten a license. I was studying. I was upgrading my skills. I couldn't do everything. My priority was to buy a home for me and my mother. So that's what I did first while I was studying. And even though I was working, the banks in this country would not renew my mortgage. So that wasn't my fault. That was their fault. And I'm not the only one that goes through it. They discriminate against single women and men. But that doesn't mean that we have to buy into that and that we have to accept self-limiting beliefs. We don't. Because we know our worth. We know what we're capable of. We know what we've accomplished. And if I could come here after being raised in Zimbabwe and compete with the best minds at Rotman and graduate at the top of my class, I guarantee you I've done a good job where I've worked. And what's happening to me is not my fault. It's the result and the fault of the corporations that I've worked with. But they won't take responsibility. They took responsibility at TD and Lehman Brothers and all of that because of the investigative journalists and because of the regulators. That's the only reason. Because I know how the bankers are. Everything's a big joke. They have a big laugh out loud culture. They're good at teasing others, making fun of them, and then saying, oh, they like you. That's why the drug cartels got away with it for so long. I stood up to them with Credit Suisse. I stood up to them because I liked Federer as a player and I had worked with them, and I didn't want to land up going to jail, and I didn't want there to be another Great Depression in the world because all the banks are interconnected. That's the reality. And everything that they brought out now at TD, you're gonna see how the investigators and the feds are going to go into all the other banks. They've already said it. They're going to go into it and they're going to look into it. And it's good. Because people like me, who are hardworking, who are intelligent, who are smart, who are dedicated, who are resilient, deserve better. What God gives us is a gift, but what we do also is worthy of being noticed. So let go of it, let go of the self-limiting beliefs and believe in yourself. Believe in what God can work to accomplish through you, the same way He did for Zechariah, the same way He did for people in their old age, the same way He did for me when I came into this country as a skilled worker. God can do amazing things through us. I went for confession today, and when I come out of confession, I feel different. I believe in the gift of confession. I believe in it.